revealing a mop of hair as red as Ganon's beard and a pair of shrewd blue eyes set in a plump, seamed face. "Hello, Aunt Glenna," said Roland with a polite nod. After tossing the hitchhiker's quilts over Ganon's potatoes, he helped her clamber up beside his father. Ganon pretended not to notice. "What, is my nephew the only one here with a tongue in his head?" Glenna barked. "Have you gone deaf and blind, brother?" As Ganon rolled his eyes, Roland smirked. His father and outspoken aunt agreed on very little, particularly when it came to raising children, and that included Roland's upbringing. "Good day to you, sister," Ganon grunted, gritting his teeth and clenching the reins in a white-knuckled grip. "May you live to see your great-grandchildren, and may your eyes never grow dim." Roland stifled a snicker. His spinster aunt was childless, and her eyesight was poor from years of needlework. "Humph!" Glenna snorted. "You know very well I can't tell a horse from a haystack at 50 paces. As for great-grandchildren, if you want any of your own, you'd better buy a place in town. The boy needs a mother, and he'll soon need a wife, too. You won't find either one up in those desolate hills." Roland bit his lip. He didn't want another mother. He had been happy with the one he'd had, and still didn't understand why she had died. 3 summers before, a fierce mountain storm had torn through the forest, toppling Adelka's ancient, hollow beech. Though the old woman no longer lived in the tree, she pined away before her family's horrified eyes. Within a week, she was dead. A month later, Roland and his mother were listening to the woodcutters, chopping their way up the mountainside, through the ravaged timber. Janna flinched at the crash of each falling tree, as if feeling its final splintering agony. Then she had rushed into the woods. The next morning, Roland and his father found her curled up beside a downed beech in Adelka's grove, as pale and cold as a frozen lily. She revived only long enough to tell Ganon, "Mind the box and the birch." With that, she had breathed her last. The birch. Hot tears stung Roland's eyes at the memory of the seedling his mother had helped him plant in the bee yard on his 4th birthday. Ever since, Roland had protected the skinny sapling from fire and drought. When a hungry beaver gnawed it down the spring after Janna's death, the bleeding stump mirrored Roland's heart, cut afresh with the loss of his mother. Ganon broke the strained silence. "We found Janna's box." "That dusty old thing," Glenna said. "I can't imagine why she wanted Roland to have it. Still, plain or pretty, a keepsake is a keepsake, I always say. Goodness knows the boy has little enough to remember his kinfolk by. Look how thin he's become, moping about in your woods. City life would do you both a passel of good." "As I've told you before, what would I do in town?" Ganon protested. "Where would I keep my bees? The townsfolk would throw my hives in the river, and me with them. Beekeepers make fine friends, but poor neighbors, as the saying goes." "Then find other work. They need more raftsmen nowadays." Ganon's lips compressed. "You know I can't swim." Glenna shrugged. "You can learn." Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "Besides, it's not safe in the woods anymore with all the strange goings-on lately. Why, just yesterday, 5 of Farmer Stubblefield's sheep up and disappeared. Disappeared, I tell you. Mark my words, First it's sheep being carried off, and then it will be people. There are unholy noises in the night, too, such as human ear has never heard. Something evil is astir, and you would be wise to move to the safety of town as quick as you can." Roland's ears perked up. Only the week before, a blood-curdling night cry had set his hair on end. "What kind of noises?" he asked. His father shot him a warning glance. Already knowing where the argument was going, Roland said, "I think I saw some sponge mushrooms under those cottonwoods. I'll catch up with you later." He kissed his aunt on the cheek. "Don't be too long," Gannon told him. "You know how you lose track of time when you've found a mushroom patch." "And there's another thing," Glenna continued without skipping a beat. "You've got to put a stop to this toadstool-picking nonsense. It's just not healthy. The boy's apt to poison himself, and you too. Then where will you be? He needs to learn a respectable trade and stop wasting his time on these foolish excursions." Roland hopped off the wagon, dodged a cart full of squawking chickens, and dove into the woods, where he shuffled through the old gray cottonwood leaves carpeting the riverbank. "Aha!" he cried, pouncing on a cluster of little tan humps peeping out from the leafy litter. After uncovering and picking the pitted, egg-shaped mushrooms, he knocked off the dirt and deposited them in his cap. He could already taste their delicate richness in a plate of steaming, scrambled eggs. Then he searched the forest floor around him, discovering more of the shy sponges. Minutes later, he emerged triumphantly from the woods with an overflowing cap. Roland caught up with his father and aunt on the Beachtown Bridge. He hid his hat behind him and put on a long face. "Has the mighty hunter found any trophies?" asked Gannon. "From the look on his face, I would say not," remarked Aunt Glenna. Then, with a flourish, Roland produced his hat. Gannon laughed. "I might have known," he said, looking over Roland's finds. "You don't often return from your mushrooming expeditions with an empty hat." He doffed his own cap, holding it out like one of Beachtown's beggars. "I trust my son will share this bounty with his poor, starving father?" "I suppose," said Roland with a grin, hoping to sell some of the mushrooms to buy his star glass. Then he darted into the crowd. "Beware of pickpockets," Glenna called after him, "and watch out for those green cloak fellows, too. You never know." Roland lost himself in the babble of voices. Drivers shouting at their horses and mules. Hawkers announcing goods for sale in sing-song chants. Children crying for their mothers. And troubadours playing wooden flutes. Full-bearded fur trappers hailed one another from under bundles of shaggy pelts. Shepherds herded their bleating sheep with crooked staves. And boisterous river boatmen dressed in bright red blouses sang out their ballads. Towering above them all were the green cloaks. Though Roland couldn't bring himself to believe these quiet, courteous strangers were capable of kidnapping, as his aunt claimed, he still avoided anyone robed in a dark green cloak and tunic. I'll do that again. He still avoided anyone robed in a dark green cloak and tunic. On reaching the market, he searched out the star-glass peddler among the colorful tents, booths, and tables crowding the square. "Come right up. See the moon and stars as never before. Most amazing invention in the world." Roland heard the peddler pitching his wares before he spotted the stooped old scarecrow surrounded by curious spectators, some of whom were already squinting through the wooden tubes. Roland squeezed through to the front of the crowd, where he found one of the devices lying on a flimsy table. "That's right, boy. Have a look-see. It won't hurt you." With his furrowed face, hooked nose, and deep-set eyes, the old man resembled an owl. Roland set his hat on the table and had just picked up the star glass when, kerplunk, the eyepiece dropped out. As Roland bent down to snatch the piece of glass out of the dirt, he bumped into someone beside him. "Oh, I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't mean to." "That's quite all right," replied the stranger, who was wearing a green tunic and cloak, brown leggings, and an amused smile. "Let me help you with that." As he reached for the eyepiece, the man glanced at Roland's chest, and the smile faded from his face. Roland looked down to see the pendant hanging outside his shirt, its stone glowing brilliantly in the sun. The thing must have slipped out while he was retrieving the eyepiece. He felt his face flush. "Where did you get that?" the man demanded. He whistled shrilly and then grabbed at the pendant. Roland tried to escape, but the crowd hemmed him in. "No, you can't have it. It's mine," he cried. He lunged across the table, falling at the feet of the startled vendor. Picking himself up, he squeezed between two tents and raced across the square, green cloaks following close behind. He had to reach the bridge. This is the end of Chapter 1 of The King of the Trees. If you would like to hear more, read more in this series, please go to www.greencloaks.com. We also have these books available as ebooks. Thank you very much.